Vamos a grabar aquí y muy buenos días. Buenos días, ¿cómo están todos hoy?
Muy
Muy
bien.
bien,
¿Todo
muy
bien?
bien,
¿Todo
bien, muy
bien?
bien,
Bien.
todo bien.
Fantástico. Sí, tengo mi cafecito y vamos a empezar. We'll start for today. Today is going to be, of course, I'll always take all your questions on all items, but mostly the big topic, if we can call it a topic, will be our stem changing verbs and some practice with the stem changing verbs as kind of a review. For some of you, it will be brand new. For some of you, it's kind of an old hat, but it's always good to come back to some of those things that are old hat. Um, y como siempre, as always, we will start by taking just one step backwards so that our Monday morning brains, which mine always is foggy, uh, los lunes on Mondays,
Hmm.
what is the topic we're looking at? And the topic we're looking at is what we call stem changing verbs. They get different names, by the way, and the names are just they're arbitrary things that grammar expert people decide they're going to be called. Some call them radical, some call them stem changes. All they mean is that there is a little internal vowel that switches to a uh, different format, a different form. And there are three categories that we always have to keep in mind. So verbs either have an E towards the end there, somewhere in the middle, whatever is right next door to the AR, ER, IR of the infinitive. Uh, it'll be an E that changes to an IE, or it'll be an O that changes into a UE. You just have to know which verbs fall in those categories. Um, and it's not really a matter so much of memorization as these are verbs that you are going to hear people using, and you, from listening to more stories, from hearing more people speaking, you will hear the examples used all the time. And we call and the third category, which is E to I, although that is a smaller category. Okay. The ones that are, and by the way, these E to I do funky things, do funky, again, stem change type things in some verb forms, some conjugations from time to time, different tenses. So the E to I is always a funny category in that if there is an odd pattern, it will happen in that category always. But these two, the E to IE and the O to UE, are super common. There are loads and loads and loads of verbs, tons that use this shoe or boot stem change. Okay. And so it's good to know which verbs fall into that category so that you can get used to it and where you will hear it. And again, the nosotros is the category where you will not hear a stem change. Nosotros traditionally does not get a stem change, but everything within the boot or shoe in the other conjugations, those conjugations will get a stem change. In present, en presente, in present. And therefore, in some commands also, you will often hear these. You hear very few stem changes in what they have as past tenses in Spanish. There are some, but not a lot. But present tense, these will pop up all the time, all the time. So let's take a look at some of these verbs that are common ones that we use a lot, that you will hear a lot, where the examples are out there. And I'm going to do some examples, and maybe you can come up with some examples independently after we take a look at these. So querer to want. Okay, que quieres, and also interestingly, it can mean to love. to love when you talk about, I love my, I love my cousins. I love my mom. I love my kids. That kind of love, not romantic love, but familial love. I love my pets, anything like that. We can use this verb querer too, but most commonly we use it for to want something. And it is often, it will be combined with wanting a thing. So we combine it with a noun, a thing, or we combine it with wanting to do something. So the second combination is querer with an infinitive. But when you do that, you'll always pair it up with a second verb that will not be conjugated. Okay, it is the action you want to do. So an example of querer with a noun is quiero ayuda. I want help. Quiero una limonada. I want a lemonade. But with an activity, we don't conjugate that second verb. So, quiero volver. I want to go back. Yeah. Uh, quiero escuchar música. I want to listen to music. See? Bien. But quiero, right? Quieres for the question, do you want, etc. Un ejemplo. Anybody got an example sentence with querer? Any old example sentence you can think of. You want something, or somebody in your house wants something. Mis mascotas quieren atención. My pets want attention. Mis mascotas quieren atención. Bien, un ejemplo. Danita, ¿tienes?
Mi niño quiere salir afuera. ¿Afuera? ¿Sí?
Perfecto, perfecto. Sí, muy bien, muy bien. Bien. Querer es un verbo muy importante. This is one of those must-know verbs because we often need to use these to communicate our wants and our needs to other people. Um, Otro ejemplo, another example anybody can think of off the top of their head, any form of querer.
How about quiero mi café?
Sí, sí, excelente, sí. So the only form that will not get a quiero or quiere or quieres or quieren is the nosotros form. So the nosotros form will sound like the Q-U-E with no E sound in there. Que queremos, queremos. So that's the only one that will not get the IE. Queremos, por ejemplo, queremos practicar hoy, ¿sí? Quiero practicar, ustedes quieren practicar, pero nosotros queremos practicar. ¿Ok? Bien. This one too is a common one that you will hear even as a tourist, because as a tourist, we often talk about going to events. So a concert may start, a tour may start, a film or a show may start, and that verb empezar that you see in bold is a stem changer. There is a second verb, comenzar, which means the same thing, to start, to begin, but actually, I don't know why this isn't publicized very much, but empezar is much more commonly used. So empezar is the one you are going to tend to hear way more often than comenzar, although they are synonyms. They mean the same thing. And they both happen to have the same kind of stem change in E to IE. Okay? Entonces, so, I could combine one of our interrogative words we have from the previous lessons. ¿Cuándo empieza? Sí, ¿cuándo empieza el tour? El tour, el recorrido o el tour. ¿Cuándo empieza? When does it start? Right? And it start will be the singular third person form, right? And we won't use the word it. ¿Cuándo empieza? When does it start? Okay. Bien. So, empiezo empiezas, ¿sí? Empieza, empiezan, but, no stem change for the nosotros. Empezamos, ¿sí? Empezamos el tour a las 9 de la mañana. We're starting the tour at 9. Empezamos el tour. Bien, ok. Cerrar is another E to I, and this one, as tourists, is good because a lot of times people will tell you when they are closed. Yeah, you're coming into a restaurant or a store of some type, and they may say to you, cerramos a la una. We're closing at 1. Cerramos, no stem change there, cerramos a la una. Pero, por ejemplo, sí, la tienda cierra, la tienda cierra. The store closes. La tienda cierra a la una. La tierra se cierra, o se cierra la tienda a las 7. It closes at 7. See? Another E to IE that everybody should know. Everybody should know this one is entender. Entender means to understand. And just like comenzar, empezar, there is another understand verb. Okay? Comprender. And everybody, almost everybody who learns Spanish, they first hear this because we have a cognate. We know the word comprehend, which means understand, and we can easily connect it. But to be very honest, even though comprender is regular, no stem change, is easy for English speakers to memorize, it's not the most common. This one is the most common, and this one has a stem change. So that IE from entender is a big deal because people will commonly use this in conversation. See? And the most common thing is the question, do you understand? You know, do you understand? It's just what question? ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se expresa? Do you understand?
¿Entiendes?
¿Entiendes? Or if they're speaking to you in an usted form, ¿entiende? ¿Sí? ¿Entiende? Sí, entiendo. Lo entiendo. I understand it. ¿Sí? Por ejemplo, okay. Bien. And you will often hear a response like this. Lo entiendo. I understand it. The lo in front of the word, the verb entiendo just means it. Okay, and that it may be something abstract or that it may be something, concrete. ¿Sí? Bien? Okay, so entiendo, entiendes, entiende, entienden, pero entendemos. Entendemos nosotros, we don't get a stem change. Here's a very, very common O-T-U-E, dormir, to sleep. So it sounds like duermo, duermes, duerme. See, duermen. And then we go back to the O, we get rid of the UE, we go back to the O from dormir to do the nosotros form. Dormimos, ¿sí? Por ejemplo, dormimos a las 11. Dormimos a las 11. We sleep at 11, ¿sí? ¿Cuántas horas duermes en general? ¿Cuántas horas duermes? How many hours do you sleep? And this is a UE. So you do have to know, is it an IE stem change? Is it a UE stem change? Bien, ¿sí? Preferir, another common change. See? Prefiero, right? This one is helpful in restaurants. Waiters may use this to ask you, ¿qué prefieres? ¿Qué prefieres? Or ¿qué prefiere? To be polite, right? ¿Qué prefiere? What do you prefer? An IE stem change. Perder, to lose a thing, or perderse, it's reflexive. It needs an extra little pronoun. To get lost. That's another common IE stem change. Here is the most common, the most important UE stem changing verb for you guys to know, for everybody to be able to use, is the can, the be able verb, poder. And we always combine this with a second verb. So poder is a lot like querer, in that we can combine it with an infinitive. Yeah. So the second verb will tell what activity it is you can do, right? And the yo form, puedo, I can. The tú form, puedes, you can. Él, ella, perdón, él, ella, usted puede, ¿sí? Ellos pueden. Y por fin nosotros, we go back to the of poder. Podemos, ¿sí? Podemos bailar, podemos cantar, podemos hablar español, así, ¿sí? Bien. Okay. One little quick word of warning. Poder is strictly means somebody is able, is capable of doing something. If you want to ask in a restaurant, can I have, uh, um, be careful because tener just means to have something. ¿Puedo tener un café? Would sound like a kind of a goofy question to someone because that just means, am I capable of having coffee? Everyone is capable of having coffee. So if you're asking, can I have a coffee? Yeah, as in making an order in a restaurant, ordering a drink or food in a restaurant, you probably don't want to use this. Yeah, it'll just be me das, will you give me? Or you could rephrase it as puedo pedir, can I order? That makes sense. Yeah. Uh, if you want to order something. ¿Sí? Y otro verbo, sí, volver. Volver gets a UE. So, it's pretty obvious with it's an O to UE because, of course, you get an O there somewhere in the stem, right? And we're going to go to some practice pages here pretty soon. Recordar and acordarse de are UE stem changes to remember. Encontrar is a UE stem change to find, right? And we have a word encounter, which is kind of like find, but it's a pretty formal word. You may not use it in, uh, you know, normal chit chat. Uh, almorzar, to eat lunch. That's a specific verb. There are three specific verbs for meal times. One is desayunar, to eat breakfast, but no stem change. Almorzar does get a stem change. That's the middle meal of the day. We call it lunch. For many Spanish-speaking countries, it is actually the biggest meal of the day, even though we think of lunch as maybe something small, or you might. Almorzar is, for most people, the biggest meal of the day, right? And then we get some weather verbs that get thrown into these stem changing categories, right? Nevar, to snow, is nieva. See? Nieva. Bien. And the other weather verb that is a stem changer is llover, to rain. Llueve. Llueve, sí. Llueve. Aquí en Phoenix, llueve en julio y agosto, ¿sí? Durante la temporada del monzón, ¿sí? Llueve. And you'll only hear, because we don't rain and you don't rain, you'll only hear llueve, that one conjugation. And you'll only hear nieva, that one conjugation, because it snows or it rains. Yeah, you won't hear a yo conjugation for that because that doesn't make sense. Another UE verb is jugar, to play, sports or games, board games, card games, any kind of sports activity is jugar. Devolver is to return an item, to return something to a place where it used to be or to a person who used to own it, right? To turn it back in. And this one, which is super helpful if you want to talk about your aches and pains, doler. Doler doesn't get used in a yo form or a tu, it could be used in a tu form sometimes. But usually you say a certain body part hurts me. So this is going to be kind of like that verb gustar, where you get the little pronoun, the me pronoun. Me duele. Me duele. If one body part hurt, oh, me duele la mano. Let's say you have arthritis. See, me duele la mano. My hand hurts. But if you're talking about both your hands have arthritis, yeah, me duelen. It's got the N part. Me duelen las manos. ¿Sí? Me duelen las manos por arthritis, ¿sí? On account of arthritis. So this is a super helpful thing. Make sure you keep this little file of some changing verbs, especially if you're a newbie person, because it helps you to know which are the super, super common verbs. There are many, dozens, scores, tons of verbs that are stem changers. There's no way for me to give you a list of all of them because you would be very overwhelmed. Yeah, they're just everywhere. We use them all the time. But, por ejemplo, vamos a practicar aquí. Tengo que engrandecer mi pantalla. Let's see how you did with these. And this becomes an issue of both vocabulary, knowing what these verbs are, because you can conjugate till you're blue in the face. If you don't know what the verbs mean, it's not very helpful situation. Yeah. Bien. So we're going to take a look at a couple of examples. I think 1 and 2, we have the example baked in, and then the other ones you fill something in here. And I think I asked you to do the first, did I say the first 15 or 20?
Yes.
15?
First
15?
15.
Ok, 15. Bien, bien. Fantástico. Ok. Y es práctica nada más. It's just practice so that you get used to the rhythm of that. In most cases, IE, in most cases, UE, once in a while, just an I stem change. Bien, y aquí el ejemplo, sí, perdón, yo no entiendo lo que usted me dijo. I don't understand what you said to me, right? And that entiendo is what we conjugated for entender. Entiendo, entiendo. And notice there's always a prompt. Somebody probably will not say that word yo because the entiendo says everything. The yo is there as a prompt so you know how or for which person we're conjugating that verb entender. Or here, el correo, which means the post office. El correo cierra a las 4 de la tarde. Cierra. See, it closes. Cierra. Okay, aquí, la reunión. We want to talk about a meeting, and we want to say it starts. La reunión, ¿cómo se dice? How would I use empezar here?
Empieza.
Empieza. Empieza a las 9 de la mañana. Empieza. And I'm going to try to make this even a little bit bigger here. Sí, mejor, better. Okay. And here is our stem change. Here it is. Oh, it will not let me highlight it now because I'm in share mode. But empieza, ¿sí? Empieza. Bien. because it begins. I'm not beginning and you are not beginning. It is beginning. Empieza. See? And that means the meeting is starting at 9 a.m., right? 9 in the morning or 9 a.m. ¿Sí? Bien. Recomendar. Recomendar has an E. I will tell you ahead of time. It is an E to IE, not an E to I, an E to IE. And we've got yo recomiendo la filete. I already had that one written in. Bien. And that would mean I recommend the filet. The grilled filet a la parrilla means on the grill. Something that's barbecued on a grill. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. Bien. Preferir. And if you're wondering, wow, which won't let me do that. Which E? I've got two E's. Which E turns into the IE? Well, it's the one that's closest to the end of the verb. That's the one that gets changed. So the PRE does not get the stem change. It's the E that's closer to the end of the infinitive that gets the stem change. Whatever is right next door. Okay? ¿Cómo se dice? My friends prefer. Mis amigos
Preferieren.
Prefieren.
prefieren, ¿sí? Prefieren. Prefieren la especialidad de la casa. They prefer the house specialty, the special of the house special, ¿sí? Prefieren, prefieren, ¿sí? They prefer the house special. Okay? Venir, which means to come, has a stem change. E to IE, E to IE. So, los invitados, the guests,
Vienen.
Vienen. Vienen.
vienen. Vienen esta noche a las 8. The guests, invitados are the invited ones, but we call those people guests. The guests are coming at tonight, esta noche, tonight at
9 o'clock.
Okay, bien. Okay, let's see what we do with entender here. Hable más despacio, por favor. Speak more slowly, please. Nosotros no
Tenemos.
Entendemos.
Entendermos.
entendemos. Entendemos, entendemos, entendemos. No stem change, ¿sí? No hay un cambio, there is no change. No hay cambio porque es nosotros, ¿sí? Speak more slowly, please. We do not understand, ¿sí? No entendemos, ¿bien? Vale, sí. Son las 7 de la noche y nosotros, tener. We
Tenemos.
Tenemos.
tenemos. And this one won't get a stem change because it's a nosotros, right? Tener, we still put in a stem change category, even though the yo should get a stem change, but it doesn't. It's an oddball. Same thing happens with venir, really. Vengo, yo, doesn't get a stem change, but the other forms do get a stem change there. So, tenemos mucha hambre. We're really hungry. It's 7 in the evening, and we are really hungry. Hace mucho calor. You guys thirsty?
Tienen.
Tienen. Tienen.
Tienen, sí, tienen. Tienen sed. Sí, it's really hot. Are you guys
Thirsty.
thirsty? Vale, sí. Perder is to lose, or, in this case, it's going to be more than lose. It's going to be get lost. And notice we need this little me word to make it get lost, right? It's a special, I think they put some AI thing in there. I don't want that. Yo no me
Pierdo.
Pierdo.
pierdo. Yo no me pierdo cuando tengo una mapa. I don't get lost when I have a
Map.
map. Sí, no me pierdo. No me pierdo. And that yo is just there to tell you who it is. Otherwise, you wouldn't know out of context. I don't get lost when I've got a map. Vale, bueno. 11. 11. Aquí. We want to conjugate it for tú. Tú. Dormir, to sleep. We need a UE, a UE.
Duermes.
Duermes. Duermes. Duermes 8 horas cada noche. Do you sleep every, or 8 hours every night? Sí. Do you sleep 8 hours every night? Qué mala suerte. What bad luck. We want encontrar. Encontrar, encontrar. We've got a UE we need in there. Yo no
Encuentro.
encuentro mis llaves. I can't find my keys. Yo no encuentro mis llaves. ¿Dónde están? Wow, where are they? Okay. Vale. Now we want poder. And really, again, querer, to want, and poder are probably the two most important. Well, maybe we could put entender, because a lot of times we have to tell somebody, no entiendo, I don't understand. But poder, querer, they are really survival verbs that happen to be stem changing verbs. So you need to be able to use poder to communicate a lot of ideas in Spanish. And here we want to say, I can't find, or my husband in this case can't find. Mi esposo no
Puede.
Puede.
puede. No puede encontrar su cartera. He can't find his wallet. No puede. No puede encontrar su cartera. ¿Sí? No puede. He can't find his wallet. Nosotros, no stem change here. Volar means to fly. Birds and planes, both. Nosotros
Volamos.
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 Volamos y llevamos las mascarillas. We're flying and we're going to wear
Masks.
masks. Yeah, sí. Okay. If I conjugated this, not for nosotros, but if I said los pasajeros, the passengers, how would I change volar?
Vuelan.
Vuelan.
Vuelen.
Vuelan.
Vuelan.
Sí, vuelan. Bien. Ok. Salgo a las 9. I'm leaving at 9. But I'm coming back at 3, okay? Pero
Vuela.
voy.
Vuela.
vuelvo. Volver, volver is a UE stem change. Volver means to come back or return. Pero vuelvo a las 3, but I'm coming back at 3. I'm leaving at 9, but I'm coming back at 3. ¿Vale? Okay?
Vale.
Sí. Bien. Okay, let's finish them up. I didn't want to overburden people, but we'll finish these up. You didn't have to. Maybe you did them out of curiosity, but let's finish up some practice and we'll go to a different practice with these in just a bit. Poder, this is that survival one, and oír talks about the ability to hear, okay? There's a subtle difference between oír, to hear, and escuchar, to listen to, okay? And oír is a more passive, just as hear is more passive. You may hear a lot of things, but you may not be listening. Aha, there's a difference. So, same meaning here. Nosotros no
Podemos.
Podemos.
podemos. No podemos oír los anuncios. We can't hear the announcements. See? If you ask somebody, can you hear? You want to ask a buddy, a tú person, can you hear?
Puedes oír.
Puedes.
Puede.
¿Puedes oír eso? ¿Puedes oír eso? Can you hear that? Yeah. ¿Puedes oír? Bien. Okay. Bien. Aquí, we're going to use a poder here, and we're going to use it for usted. Usted. And we're going to ask if somebody can repeat something. And this is a useful one for our tourists to be able to say. The polite you, can you repeat? ¿Cómo se dice?
Pueden.
Puede.
Pueden.
Puede. ¿Puede usted
Puede.
repetir la información? Puede usted. And the usted there is so that you know who to conjugate it for. Typically, people will leave even that word usted out. If they're looking you straight in the eye, and they're helping you in a store, an airport, wherever, if they're looking you straight in the eye, they're going to assume it's safe to assume that the usted is understood without having to say the word usted. So you may hear this question only as ¿puede repetir la información? ¿Puede repetir la información? Without the word usted. Okay, bien. And
Bien.
yeah, even if we're talking about a bus doing something, well, it's a mechanical thing, but it might be able
Puede.
to do something, right?
Vuelve.
Vuelve, sí.
Vuelve.
Vuelve en una hora, ¿verdad?
Sí.
El autobús vuelve en una hora, ¿verdad? Hey, the bus is coming back in an hour, isn't it? Vuelve en una hora. It's coming back. Vuelve. And it's one thing doing that action. So it's conjugated like él or ella or usted because it's one thing. Okay. Vuelve. Los futbolistas, soccer players,
Jueguen.
Juega.
juegan. Sí, juegan. Los futbolistas juegan en el estadio mañana. The soccer players are playing at the stadium tomorrow. Juegan, ¿sí? Bien. A ver. Muy importante, costar. Costar is an important verb too, actually. It means to cost. And generally, we conjugate this. It is possible it has, like formally, if you look up a chart, it has a yo conjugation, but I don't cost anything and neither do you. So you're only going to need really two conjugations for costar. To talk about one item, a onesie item, cuesta, cuesta. And to
Cuestan.
talk about multiple items, like if you buy boots, shoes, more than one shirt, yeah, then it will be plural, cuestan, yeah, but it won't go into a yo or tu form. You won't hear it used that way because nobody does. So, estos pantalones, these pants, and pantalones is plural, so
Cuestan.
cuestan 20 euros, ¿sí? Esos pantalones cuestan 20 euros. These pants cost 20 euros. Okay. And we're going to use costar again. And menu del día, menu of the day. This is like saying the daily special. In Spain, they have something called menú del día, and it's a package meal. You get your drink and your entree and your meal, like the main dish, and a little dessert, and all that stuff comes at one price. And that is just called el menú del día. It would be like saying a special meal, right? ¿Cuánto? So it's one thing. That's what we're
Cuesta.
conjugating.
El
Cuesta.
menú de
Cuesta.
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 ¿Cuánto cuesta? ¿Cuánto cuesta? So you're going to hear, or you're going to say, if you want to ask a question, it'll always be ¿cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost? Or if it's a plural item, ¿cuánto cuestan? ¿Sí? ¿Cuánto cuestan? Okay. And do know the plural, because sometimes when you buy multiple quantities of things, some vendors in some places may have special pricing if you buy two shirts instead of one, like two for a reduced price or three for a reduced price. So cuestan plural is an important one to know too. ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much does it cost? 22 aquí. Probar. Probar, well, it means a few things. Reflexively, it means to try on, but in this case, it means taste, like sample.
Prueba.
prueba.
Pruebas.
Prueba.
Pruebas este vino. Are you trying this
Wine.
wine? Meaning, are you tasting it, sampling it, not drinking a whole glass? You've got a sample, yeah? Uh, and pruebas is used to taste just a bite of something or a sip of something. If you're choosing wines, sometimes they'll give you the little sample, right? Pruebas. Try this out. So pruebas is try it out. Yeah. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. Vale. Fantástico. Let's see.
I have a question.
Sí, sí, sí.
I,
Dime, por favor.
where you used UD instead of Eustace, is that proper Spanish to abbreviate like that?
Oh, to abbreviate ustedes?
Yeah. Is that
Yes.
proper if
It
you
is
were
it is
writing?
usual. Not only is it proper, it's what they usually do.
Okay.
So let me put that back on share screen, Andres, so that I can absolutely show you what we mean. Okay. If I, come on, computer, here we go. Here we go. Oops. Usted is the formal you, but you generally see it as this. You generally see the abbreviation, but nobody will, just like if you see MR in English, you see MR, it's said Mr. Nobody says Mer. Mer
Mm-hmm.
Smith, right? Everybody says the whole word, Mr. Everybody says the whole word, usted.
Okay.
But in writing, it'll be at that. So ustedes, the plural, which is more than one you guys or y'all, if you will, is almost always written this way. Very seldom, Andres, do you see it written out as the whole word.
Okay.
Okay.
Marilyn, I just, as having lived in Texas for 40 plus years, I do need to correct you there.
Okay.
The plural of y'all is singular. The
Ah.
plural is all of y'all.
Oh, is that right? Wow. Oh, actually, I have had friends who've said y'all, and they only were talking to me. So, gracias. Sí. Not ever having lived in the South, I am not familiar. Necesitamos un experto.
Unknown caller.
Bien. Okay. Adelante. Moving on. Okay. I want to just switch gears very, very briefly. I want to know, or I want to just maybe point out, we're not going to listen to this. I gave you this little story to listen to. And the important thing to realize is that a lot of times, like today, we're practicing with a lot of examples of stem changers, but it is kind of artificial to say that every sentence all the time has stem changers everywhere because that is silly. I mean, they will be sprinkled in. Stem changers, they're sprinkled where they are needed. So the thing that might be, and I think it had a segment with the things written in. Yeah. So when you're listening, this is a strategy thing. Yeah. When you are listening, you'll go from a sentence like this, no es muy grande, that's just got a plain verb, le gusta caminar le gusta caminar, ir al parque, just regular verbs, and se levanta muy temprano, gets up early. But, you toma una taza de café, has a cup of coffee. So, in a typical conversation, I'm trying to get to something where they switched. You have to be, here, aquí. You have to be listening for people will switch out from using regular verbs to these stem changers constantly. It just happens. And there's no warning There's no antenna that come up on your head. I'm going to be, you just need to know they're going to be sprinkled in where they're needed. So your listening strategy is you have to just go with the flow and recognize when you hear something like prefiere, Lucia prefiere la mermelada de fresa. Oh, they're switching into a stem changing verb. And yeah, you will not hear Lucia prefere. Prefere is wrong. It's hard for me to even say that. Prefiere, prefiere. All right. So, Spanish, because it has irregular verbs, will switch on and off between all those different modes as it needs to in a regular conversation. That's just the way it happens. Let's take a look. We're going to do something impromptu, and I've got to make sure I make this really big so it's easy to read. Ooh. And I'll give you the website for this if you want to try it out on your own sometime during the week as well. A ver. And they give us a key, meaning here are the verbs you're going to use up top. So they give us a key or a word bank. That's really what I want to say. A word bank. Here is our word bank. And this will be somewhat artificial because the point is to practice a lot of stem changing verbs. In typical conversation, it's sprinkled here and there as needed. Okay. So we're going to use almorzar to eat lunch, dormir to sleep, encontrar to find, entender to understand, pedir, that's an E to I, which means to ask for or to order. You can ask somebody for a favor or you can order a coffee. Yeah, and that's what that verb pedir does. And pedir is an E to I. It's one of those it's that outlier, small, tiny category of E to I. So it's going to sound like pido. I'm going to isolate just that one because we haven't really looked at that one yet. It'll sound like pido, pides, pide, piden, and then nosotros goes back to ped, pedir. Okay, pedir. Pedir is a verb you want to be a little bit careful with as a foreigner for this reason. Pedir is very typically expected to mean that you're ordering something. But because it's PED, make sure you put a stem change in there to say yo. Okay? Pido, E to I, pido is I'm ordering. If you just memorize the verb pedir and you think, oh, you forget the stem change, pedo is a fart. It is a word that means fart. Yeah? So you never want to use the word pedo in a restaurant for obvious reasons. Okay, so always pido, I order, never pedo, okay? No pedos in the restaurant. Pensar, to think, poder, to be able to, preferir, E to I-E, querer, to want, servir, to serve. This is again like pedir. Servir is in the same category as pedir. Servir is an E to I, so it's in that tiny category. We don't have a ton of these. Sirvo, sirves, sirve, sirven, but back to the E of S-E-R for nosotros, servimos, right? And tener. So we're going to have a little story here, and we'll see if you can conjugate all these verbs. El almuerzo de Lola y Sara. Lola and Sarah's lunch. ¿Sí? Y Lola dice que, hola Sara, ¿cómo te va? ¿Cómo te va? How's it going for you? The te va, the te is for you, va, it's going. ¿Cómo te va? How's it going? Bastante bien. Pretty good. Pretty well. Bastante bien. ¿Y tú, Lola? ¿Qué hay de nuevo? What would that question be asking? ¿Qué hay de nuevo?
What are you doing today?
Is
¿Qué
there
hay de...
anything?
Puedes ver. Can you see that one? ¿Sí o no?
Oh, what's new?
What's
Yeah,
new?
yeah. Hay
What's
means
new
there is,
today?
there are, but que hay de nuevo just means what's new. Okay. And if somebody says, uh, I plan to have, I plan to have a dinner party. Yeah. Pensar, besides meaning to think, it also means to plan when we combine it with a verb.
Saturday.
Pienso.
Pues yo
Pienso,
pienso, pienso.
pienso.
Yo pienso tener una cena. I plan to have a dinner party, ¿sí? Para mis amigos este sábado. Pienso tener, I plan to have. Pienso means to think, but when we combine it with another verb, it means to plan. Qué buena idea. And if you want to ask,
Qué buena
can I
idea.
help?
Puedo.
Puedo.
Ayudar con lo-
¿Puedo ayudar? Can I help? ¿Puedo ayudar con las preparaciones? Can I help? ¿Sí?
Sí,
Bien.
sí.
Claro que sí.
Of
Of course you
course.
can. Yeah. Do you want to go to the market?
¿Quieres ir
Sí.
al mercado centro?
Eso sí.
¿Quieres?
¿Quieres ir al mercado central? Conmigo, with me, conmigo. Ahora, sí. Sí. Yo siempre, I always find really good meat there. Siempre
Carro,
Encuentra.
Encuentro.
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 Siempre encuentro. I always find. And now we want almorzar, and we want to make it it's because the two gals talking are both gals, and so it's a nosotras, but the verb will still be a nosotros verb. Why don't we have some lunch first?
Almorzamos.
Almorzamos.
Almorzamos. ¿Por qué no almorzamos primero? Why don't we have some lunch first? ¿Sí? Tengo mucha hambre. And she says, me too. Yo también. Me too. Where do you prefer to eat? We want to use preferir for tú.
Prefieres.
Prefieres. ¿Dónde prefieres? Where do you prefer to eat? ¿Por qué no vamos a McDonald's? Ay. No, me gustan sus hamburguesas. Sí, qué horror. Oh, there's my response. Qué horror. I don't understand. Oh, I don't get it. Why do you want to go there? Yo no
Entiendo.
entiendo esto. I don't get it. La comida rápida, fast food, has tons of fat, has a lot of fat. La comida rápida, we're talking about one thing, even though it's not a human being, it's one thing. La comida rápida
Tiene.
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 tiene mucha grasa. Bien, sí, okay. So if you want to re-quiz yourself sometime later in the week, come back and do un repaso. You can do that and you click on the correct and it will give you the answers there. Okay, bien. Vale. Okay. Y continuamos. Let's keep going here. Bueno, okay. I have another idea. Yo
tengo.
tengo, and oddly, I know the yo for tengo doesn't get a stem change. It just is that way. Tengo otra idea. Allí hay un café que me gusta mucho.
There's a cafe I really like.
Yeah, there's a cafe I really like. Sé que el chef, I know. Sé here means I know. I
chef.
know that the chef serves, and it's
Sirve.
an E to I.
Sirve.
Sirve. Sirve una sopa muy rica. He serves a really yummy
Ah,
soup.
Soup.
La sopa, ¿sí? Sirve una sopa muy rica. Um, no, I want something different. Yo
Juego.
Quiero.
quiero.
Juego.
Quiero algo diferente. I want something different. See? ¿Sabes si, do you know if we can order a salad? Ooh, a shrimp salad. If we can order, we want poder for a we idea. Can we order? Poder. Can we?
Podemos.
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 No stem change because it's outside of that boot or shoe. See? Podemos pedir. Can we order? See? No lo sé. I don't know. Debes leer el menú. You really ought to read the menu. Why don't you order? This is an E to I, just not IE, just an I. A tu form for pedir is
Pides.
pides. ¿Por qué no pides
Pides.
chuletas de cerdo? Why don't you order some pork chops? ¿Sí? ¿Por qué no pides? Why don't you order? ¿Por qué no pides chuletas de cerdo? Es el plato del día. It's the daily special, ¿sí? Así que vieron, generalmente, usually I eat lunch,
Almuerzo.
almuerzo.
Eso.
Usually I just eat a yogurt, nothing more. Wow, that would be really odd for lunch for a Hispanic, but hey. Almuerzo, almuerzo. Y cuidado, careful. If we use almuerzo, it is possible, es posible usar almuerzo como un sustantivo. Almuerzo can be used as a noun, and then it will have an el in front of it. El almuerzo means lunch, the thing. But almuerzo, if it's talking about a person doing it, it's the yo. I am eating lunch. And are we ordering wine? We want pedir for are we ordering?
Pedimos.
Perdemos.
Pedimos. Yeah, pedimos. This is gets that emos at the end because it's an IR verb. Yeah. Pedimos vino con el almuerzo. No es una buena idea. It's not a good idea. I follow. Oh, I sleep right away if I drink wine at this time. Yo duermo. Yo duermo enseguida. I'm asleep right away. If I drink wine at this time. If we say drink at this time of day, it is expressed as not tiempo, but hora, hour. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. Bien.
Bien.
Buen repaso. Good review. So these stem changers are super important to get to know. And as you hear more verbs used in stories, a lot of times you'll hear an IE in the middle of a verb and a UE conjugated in the middle of a verb. And you'll know automatically, oh, those are stem changing verbs, even if it's a new verb that you've never heard before. If you hear those IE and UE combinations, you know it is what they call a stem changer, let us say. Okay? ¿Sí? ¿Bien?
Bien.
Bien. Ok. Vale. Muy bien. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any kind of question on those or no? No? Bien. Vale. It is one of the easier things to review and vale la pena. It is worth it. It is worth it just to take a quick look at some of those. Okay. Siguiente. Quiero saber, ¿sí? Quiero saber si ustedes, ella parece japonesa. She looks Japanese. Ella es colombiana. She's a Colombian gal, but she looks Japanese. This was kind of a cute video. Okay. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any kind of question of anything she said or any phrase she used that you didn't get from listening to that during the week?
ADN.
Oh,
¿Ácido?
DNA. Yeah, DNA. Just like we abbreviate. Yeah. Um, yeah. Um, they do too, but the word order is different. The letter order, yeah, it's abbreviated, but the letter order is different. Some things happen like that, like UN, United Nations is that una Organización de Naciones Unidos. Yeah, they have a different acronym when there are abbreviations for things because the word order is different than ours. Yeah, that's why. Sí. Ah, ella sí tomó sí, esa prueba de ah, ADN, sí. Y eso. Any other questions? Otra pregunta. ¿Fue fácil o difícil? Easy or hard? ¿Fácil?
Fácil,
This is
fácil,
supposed to
sí.
be an easy level. Okay.
Difícil.
Bien.
Difícil.
Y, ok, vale. ¿Alguien aquí ha tomado una prueba de ADN? Anybody taken a little test on that? Hay muchas personas en mi familia
Ah,
que sí han tomado, sí, esa prueba, ¿sí? Yo no, pero es algo más y más popular, creo, ¿no?
Ujú,
Sí.
sí.
ujú,
Cuando las personas investigan, buscan secretos de la familia
ujú,
o orígenes de la familia, ¿sí? Información de otras generaciones de la familia. Es muy común tomar, sí, una prueba, sí, una prueba aquí para identificar información, para buscar y encontrar información de la historia de la familia. Es bastante popular y cuesta, ¿cuánto cuesta? ¿Cuánto cuesta una prueba de ADN? How much does a DNA test cost? ¿Cuánto cuesta? ¿Alguien sabe cuánto cuesta?
No sé.
No lo
¿No?
sé.
¿No sabes? ¿No saben? Sí, sí, $150, $75, algo así, something like that, ¿sí? Bien. Ah, no es, no es súper económico, pero es común, es común. Ok, vale. Bien, bien. I thought we would take a little look, if that is okay, to kind of finish up with, I am hoping to fit in 3 different verbs. These are super common verbs. Well, maybe we'll only fit 2 of them in. I don't know. No sé. Uno.
Hola,
Sí,
estaba.
un momento. Um, I want to maybe share some ideas of verbs that we use where sometimes the meaning goes a little bit beyond what you'll look up in a dictionary. Yeah. And like common ones, something that you hear a lot. So, not something fancy schmancy from a book or a legal form or a medical document, but verbs that you tend to hear a lot. And this one is going to be about a verb that you guys know as poner. ¿Cuál es? Sí, ¿cuál es la definición de todas las definiciones out of all the definitions? ¿Cuál es la definición de poner.
Put or place.
To put or place, right? To put, place, or set. We use it, yeah. We use it for like set the table too. See, poner la mesa. Bien. Okay, so here are maybe some uses that you may not have thought about for that verb poner, which will be kind of common. Bien.
Estaba escuchando una canción y eso me dio una idea para decirte cómo usamos el verbo poner con
I was listening to a song and it made me think about ways that we might use poner
tres
with
cosas muy específicas
three specific things.
que creo que no conoces. A veces usamos el verbo poner para decir iniciar una máquina, iniciar
Poner para iniciar una máquina. Poner, iniciar.
No idea.
Turns on.
Iniciar, you know, initiate, right?
Mhm.
What do you think iniciar una máquina means?
Turn on a machine.
Turn on a machine. Yeah. So, whereas in English we need turn on, you have to have that on piece, yeah? You never say turn the radio, turn the TV, turn the computer. Turn the computer, somebody thinks you're going to like have flipped the whole orientation of the screen, right? Yeah. You got to have on in English, but poner. So poner is often used. It is not the only verb to use to say turn on, but it is a simple one that is easy to use because poner has no stem change. You know, it's okay. It gets that funny go form for yo, but if you're talking to a machine, it'll be conjugated for the LE usted form, right? So, pone.
el proceso de algo, pero muy específicamente lo usamos para estas tres cosas, aunque puede haber otros ejemplos. 1, poner la cafetera, que es
Poner la cafetera. Cafetera es la máquina para hacer café. ¿Sí? Cafetera. Cafetera es la máquina que se usa para hacer café. Entonces, sí, poner la cafetera is to turn on the
Coffee.
coffee maker.
es básicamente hacer el café. Todo el proceso de poner el café adentro, poner agua, iniciar la máquina, eso es poner la cafetera.
So the whole process of putting the coffee in the machine, pouring in the water, that whole thing is poner la cafetera. So besides just pushing the button on, yeah, that whole process of doing everything you have to do to make a coffee is poner la cafetera. Yeah, that's all included.
También podemos decir poner la tele, que quiere decir
Poner la tele would be to turn on the
Coffee machine.
TV set.
TV.
Oh, TV.
Sí, la tele, la televisión.
encender la tele.
Encender la tele. And encender is the other verb that also means to turn on. It's a second verb. You may hear yet a third, but the two really common ones, right? Poner la tele, encender. And encender is an IE stem change, but poner is easier to use, yeah? Poner la tele, turn on the TV.
Elegir un programa o película para ver, eso es poner la tele. Y finalmente puedes decir poner el radio o más general, poner música, que básicamente
Poner la radio o poner música, to put on music. Yeah. Or turn on the radio, turn on music, turn on some music. Poner. Right? You're putting it on, you're turning it on. Poner la música.
es encender la bocina o abrir una aplicación de música en tu teléfono y darle play, básicamente.
Darle play, touch play. Darle is to hit that button, right? Darle.
Eso es poner el radio o poner música. Espero que te sirvan estas tres expresiones, son súper comunes y probablemente no las sabías. Adiós.
Okay, bien. So, some uses of poner, which is not a stem change, so that helps us. That's an easy kind of verb. And the next one I want to take a look at is also a super common verb. Perdón. Uy, momento. El segundo. And I don't know if this is going to take us right up to the hour or not. Will I fit my 3 in? No sé. This is on the verb pasar. Y pasar es muy regular. Pasar is an extremely common verb. It's a regular verb. Pasar means to...
Walk.
Oh, it means a bunch of things.
Oh.
To
Pasar,
pass. To pass.
put a double S on it. Yeah, and you get pass. So, pass is going to have many meanings. Yeah, just like pass, but actually more than pass. Yeah. But it's a good thing to know in what contexts we will use pasar. Es fácil de conjugar. It is an easy to conjugate verb because there's no funny business with irregular stuff, right? Paso, it's an AR verb. Paso, pasas, pasa, pasan, pasamos. Okay, vale, sí. But there are different ways to use it, and there are different definitions. And just like as if you looked up a verb like to get, if you looked up to get in English, you'd get a bunch of definitions. You'll get a bunch of definitions for pasar, but it's used a lot in conversation. So let's see
Or
some.
different ways to use it. Pasar is the most versatile verb in Spanish.
Don't worry, we won't be going over all 64 meanings in this video.
64 is too much. Your brain go, yeah. Okay. So we don't want all 64. We want like the highlights.
No, but we will be going over the most important ones so that you can keep improving your Spanish.
Before we start, make sure you like this video, subscribe if you haven't, so you don't miss any other lessons.
Okay, number 1. The most common way to use pasar is when you give or you pass something to someone.
Oh, okay. So you hand it over to somebody. Yeah. Okay. Vamos a ver.
For example, can you pass me the salt, please?
¿Puedes
That kind of pass.
pasarme la sal, por favor?
And here we have, we got a stem changer combined with pasar, yeah? Puedes pasarme la sal. Can you pass me the salt? Sí. Puedes pasarme la sal. Sí. Bien. So, just hand over, right? Pasar.
So, pass me the salt, pasarme la sal. Or another example could be, hand me or pass me a Kleenex. I have to blow my nose.
Pásame un Kleenex. Tengo que sonarme la nariz.
Bien, sí. Pásame un Kleenex. Y, sí, Kleenex. Un Kleenex. Bien,
Un
sí.
Kleenex.
Tengo que sonarme. Sonarme, sonarse is to blow one's nose. Sonarme, I've got to blow my nose because nobody blows your nose for you. You blow your own nose, yeah? It's a reflexive verb. Tengo que sonarme la nariz. Pásame un Kleenex.
Or we could say something like, the car's locked, I'll pass you the keys.
El coche está cerrado, te paso las llaves.
So,
Y te paso is kind of like saying hand over. Yeah,
Paso.
I'll hand you the keys. Yeah, I typically in English wouldn't say I'll pass you the keys. I would say I'll hand you the keys, wouldn't? Yeah. And maybe you say it a different way, but that's how I would do it. I'll hand you the keys. I'll hand over the keys. I'll toss you the keys. Yeah. Even I'll give you the keys. And you could use
Paso las
give.
llaves.
Yeah, but paso is a common thing there.
in all 3 of these examples, you're passing something to someone.
You're handing it over. Yeah, bien, pasar.
Number 2, we can also use pasar to describe physically passing by or through something.
Right, so
And this one is logical because pass means you're moving in space, right? You're moving in space. So this is that very common meaning of pasar.
for example, to pass through something, we could say something like, I'm going to pass through the park before getting home.
Voy a pasar por el parque antes de llegar a la casa.
So physically going through the park, pasar por el parque. And if we
So anytime you're moving through a certain space, it's possible to
Pasar.
use pasar. Yeah.
want to say pass
Pasar.
by, we could say something like, the cars go by quickly on this street.
Los autos
coches.
pasan rápido por esta calle.
And a really common expression you'll hear
And cars go by, pasan. See, pasan. Go by, pasan.
is if someone's going to pass by your house to pick you up, you could hear something like this. Do you want to go out tonight? I'll stop by at 8.
I'll stop by at 8. That stop by at 8,
Pasar.
people will use the pasar for that idea of stop by. And then it's going to be a pasar por. Pasar por. It gets combined with por.
¿Quieres salir esta noche? Paso por ti a las 8.
Ah, bien. Esto es muy común. This is a super common use of pasar.
Paso
I'll
por
stop by for you, meaning I'm going to pick you up, right? If anybody is going to pick you up, whether we're going to pick you up from the hotel for the tour, yeah? Pasamos por ustedes. We're coming by for you guys to take you on the tour, see? Paso por ti. And it'll always be combined with por if somebody is stopping by to pick you up. Paso por ti. Paso por ustedes if it's a group of you. I'm coming by to pick all of you up. I'll stop by.
So paso por ti, super common. I'll stop by to pick you up. Number 3, pasar is often used to talk about passing the time, like days, minutes, or years. So we're focused on conveying the sense of time going by. For example, time goes by fast when we're together.
El tiempo pasa muy rápido cuando estamos juntos.
So that's why, yeah, time passes by. We use it.
Time goes by, el tiempo pasa. We could also say something like, it's been 5 years since the last time I saw you.
Eso.
Han pasado 5 años desde la
pasado.
última vez que te vi.
Now, that one's a little more complicated because you're using it in a
Han.
compound tense, right?
Pasado.
But in the conjugation you are familiar with, it might be pasan 5 años. 5 years have passed. Now, see, pasan 5 años. Pasan would be the 5 years of what's doing the passing, so pasan.
So it's like saying 5 years have passed. Han pasado 5 años. Or we could say, what do you do to pass the time while waiting for the doctor?
¿Qué haces para pasar el tiempo mientras esperas al doctor?
And we often use pass the time. Pasar is used to talk about spending time. Yeah. There's a completely different verb you use in Spanish to say spend when you're referring to money. That's not pasar. But when you spend time, it is pasar tiempo, because spending times means time is passing. I am passing my time doing something else.
So in all these examples, we're conveying time passing by.
Number 4. Use pasar to talk about spending time doing activities or with people.
Right, for example, I like to spend time with my friends on weekends.
Yeah. Spending time with anybody is pasar.
Me gusta pasar tiempo con mis amigos los fines de semana.
Okay, so here they combine it with me gusta, I like, right? Me gusta pasar, and they didn't conjugate pasar. If you just say I spend time, it's paso tiempo con mis amigos. Mi hijo pasa tiempo con sus amigos. Mi hija pasa muchas horas con sus colegas. She spends a lot of times with her work colleagues. Pasa mucho tiempo, muchas horas con sus colegas. Bien? Pasar tiempo. So here they didn't conjugate it, but if you conjugated it for yo without the me gusta part, it would just be paso tiempo.
So you can probably tell that this is kind of like the previous one, but instead of talking about passing time, specifically past 5 years or anything like that, we're specifically talking about activities or time with people. So we could say something like, how did you spend your vacation?
¿Cómo pasaste tus vacaciones?
So just know that pasaste is the tu form for past. How did you spend? Meaning it's over with. Yeah. All right. That's just a special conjugation that we call a preterite past tense. And it just means it's not going on right now. It happened and it's done.
Or, I spent the whole day studying.
Pasé todo el día estudiando.
So,
And again, that is a yo form, but not for right now, for the past, right? Pasé. Pasé is just the yo form for pasar, to say that it's done. You know, it's the day is over with. Yeah. Pasé todo el día. I spent the whole day.
remember, don't get tripped up that the English is I spent the whole day. It's still passing the day. It's just an expression that uses pasar. Number 5, pasar can also mean to happen. And we use pasar like this when we want to ask about or describe specific events. For example, what happened in the meeting?
¿Qué pasó en la reunión?
And this you may hear in present and past. And in the little homework file you're going to get, I'm going to show you both the present and the past. Because for this particular one, it's good to just memorize the chunk of ¿qué pasó? What happened? Many times we need to ask that as a past idea. And some of you don't know anything about past tense or, you know, have only seen it a couple of times or heard it a couple of times. But the two forms you should know for this are ¿qué pasa? What's going on, like right now? Yeah. What's happening, what's going on, or the past idea of ¿qué pasó? And just memorize those two words. ¿Qué pasa? For right now. ¿Qué pasó? For what is done, right? ¿Qué pasó? What happened? And notice with that ¿qué pasó? It's really important to punch the O harder. Because if you don't do that, right? Pasó, if you pronounce it like paso and you punch the pa harder, paso means I'm going through a space or I'm coming in. That's paso. But that turns pa, punching the pa, makes it a yo form right now. If you punch the o at the end harder, pasó, it turns it into it happened. Okay, so that knowing which syllable to put more stress on is an important thing because for this particular word, the two words are spelled exactly the same, but one gets an emphasis on pa, meaning I'm doing something right now, and one gets the emphasis on o, which means it happened. Pasó.
I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
No sé qué va a pasar mañana.
So here you can see we're using pasar, but it means to happen. Like, a lot of interesting things happened on this trip.
Pasaron muchas cosas interesantes en este viaje. Number 6. In some contexts, pasar means to ignore or let something go.
Right, now this is probably the toughest one in this video because you can't literally translate in any way that pasar can mean to pass or to spend. It's really just an expression that can be used to mean to let something go or to ignore. For example, I'm going to ignore their negative comments.
Voy a pasar de sus comentarios negativos.
So we could easily use like voy a ignorar, but we can also use this expression with pasar. Or if we wanted to express like, I'm sorry, I can't overlook or I can't let this thing go.
Lo siento, no puedo pasar esto por alto.
And one quick bonus usage that I actually just recently learned, if you're playing cards and it's your turn and you can't go, you can say paso, right?
Exactly. Paso.
Number 7.
Yeah, and we use that in English with card games, right? Pass, meaning you're skipping your turn. Okay, so that number 6, I will not put, para que sepan, so that you know, I will not put the number 6 in the practice element. I'm going to ask you to practice some forms of pasar to come in for conversation next week.
7. We had to include a reflexive form, pasarse, which can mean to go overboard or miss a mark or do something excessively. For example, I think I went overboard eating sweets.
Creo que me pasé comiendo dulces.
So this is used when you do something too much. Yeah. Overeating. Yeah. In this case.
It won't work if we just use pasé. We have to use the reflexive form, so it'll be me pasé. We could also use pasar in this way to express, hey, don't cross the line.
Oye, no te pases la raya.
So here again, you see we need to use te pases. Or let's see the example, the pharmacy's back there. We passed it.
La farmacia está atrás. Ya nos pasamos.
So we can use that reflexive, nos pasamos, to express this, we passed it, we missed the mark.
Well, that's it for this video. Tell us.
Okay. And one other thing that I kind of want to emphasize, and it's tied into actually one of their ideas, which is the idea of like moving through space, like pasamos por el parque, we're going through the park. Very, very often, a thing that people kind of forget about, but it is the most common thing you will hear as a tourist when you're entering a building, right? Typically, entrar, to enter, is okay, but that's not what you're going to hear. Okay, there is a verb entrar, and it does mean to enter, and you may hear it. But generally, when somebody wants you to come in or to walk through an area, like let's say you're walking through to go to some changing rooms because you want to try on, a shirt that you want to buy something, but you want to see what fits, and you want to go through a certain area. When somebody invites you in, it'll be pasa. And we often don't use pass as come in, right? But you don't need to look up in the dictionary, because if you Google come, you're going to look and see venir, venir, V-E-N-I-R, venir. But come on in, the way that people greet you at the door in a store, an office, in a home is pasa. And you pass in. So pasa, ¿sí? Bien. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to have a little file, and it'll have a little initial set to kind of do a clean up review of extra ideas for you to use some of the stem changers. And then it will have some other pages in that file will ask you to practice some of these uses of pasar, to think up examples. I'll have you finish sentences or create some ideas using pasar in many of those different meanings. We're going to skip some of those, and I'll have an inclusion there with the que pasa, what's going on, and que pasó, how those two are different, what happened. So that you keep those in mind as chunks to remember. And then quickly, and you're going to get, of course, a story to listen for the week. Oh, and it's sort of, yeah, this is going to be a story. I had to Google what this was, guys, because I'm old. I've got to ask my kids, because I'm sure they're going to say, God, you didn't know that. I think young people know about this, but being old and not in the dating pool, strike number 1, I'm old. Strike number 2, not in the dating pool. That's why I didn't know about this. And I had to Google it, and it is a thing. And apparently it's been a thing for 10 years. So now I really feel out of the loop. But it's a very funny video. It will make you laugh. And just listen for fun stuff and for meaning. Nada más, nothing else. And eso es todo. That's it for today. ¿Sí? ¿Todo bien?
Okay.
Yeah.
Todo bien.
Todo
Gracias.
bien. Good. Okay, so you'll get some review independent work to do for stem changers and some application of meanings of pasar. See if you can use that. Y eso es todo. That's it for this week. ¿Sí? Bien?
Bien.
Adiós.
Excelente, excelente, excelente. Espero que sí, lo pasen muy bien. I hope you have a good time. Oh, and I've got to include that. Actually, there's a different use of pasar. Ooh, and I'm going to have to include it. Now that I thought about it, have a good time is pasar also. I've got to add an extra thing they didn't have in their video. There we go. Okay. Nada, nothing else. Hasta luego. Nos vemos. ¿Sí?